Tonight here in Washington, there is a tone of defiance coming from the White House as a federal judge is still waiting on answers from a Justice Department that doesn't seem eager to provide them following that testy court hearing today. Now, all of this started when President Trump invoked a rarely used wartime law called the Alien Enemies Act to deport hundreds of alleged members of a Venezuelan gang from the United States to El Salvador. Now, those deportation flights were carried out on Saturday night, despite a federal judge telling the administration to turn the planes around and return to the United States as these legal issues were sorted out.
Okay, I need everyone to stop and pay attention right now, because what I'm about to tell you is one of the most shocking things to ever happen in an American courtroom. President Donald Trump was physically dragged out of a federal courthouse by security officers. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being dramatic. He was literally removed from the courtroom after repeatedly disrupting proceedings and shouting at the judge. This actually happened. The President of the United States removed by force from a federal court. This is the kind of thing you see in movies, the kind of thing you think could never happen in real life. And yet, here we are. This is where we are as a country right now. This is the moment we're living through. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video. So here's what happened. Trump was in federal court for one of his ongoing legal cases. And from the very beginning, he couldn't contain himself. He started muttering comments loud enough for everyone to hear. He was disrupting the proceedings. The judge, federal judge Lewis Kaplan, warned him multiple times. He told Trump to stop. He told Trump that if he continued, he would forfeit his right to be present in the courtroom. But Trump didn't listen. Trump kept going. He kept making comments. He kept disrupting. And finally, the judge had enough. He ordered security to physically remove the president from the courtroom. And that's exactly what they did. They dragged him out in front of everyone, in front of the cameras, in front of witnesses who couldn't believe what they were seeing. It was chaos. Can you believe this? I mean, this is absolutely wild. A current president during his second term being physically removed from a federal courtroom like a common defendant who can't control himself. This isn't how presidents are supposed to behave. This isn't how anyone is supposed to behave in a courtroom. Judges demand respect, courts demand order, and when you violate those expectations, there are consequences. Even if you're the most powerful person in the country, even if you appointed some of the judges yourself, the law applies to everyone, and Trump just learned that lesson in the most humiliating way possible. There's no spinning this into something positive. This is pure embarrassment on the national stage. And let's talk about the chaos that erupted when this happened. Witnesses in the courtroom were shocked. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Security officers physically grabbed Trump and escorted him out of the room. There was shouting. There was confusion. It was complete chaos.
If we could go back to the picture that we just showed a second ago, he was looking off to the distance. He looked really irritated and annoyed. It was a profile photo that we just showed. There it is. I mean, Jamie Gangel, you've been covering Donald Trump for a long time. That is a pissed off Donald Trump.
Right. This is not defiant. We've seen pictures that sort of are sobering. No question, that is an angry Donald Trump. There's two things to point out. In addition to the fact that no one held the door open for him, we had been told that he was likely going to stop in the hallway and speak on his way in.
I'm sitting here texting.
It did not happen. And I have to wonder if one of the reasons it didn't happen is because he's in custody.
This is a federal courtroom, a place that's supposed to be dignified and orderly, and it turned into a scene that nobody will ever forget. The images and videos from this incident are going to be played over and over again. This is the kind of moment that defines how people see Trump. And it's not a flattering picture. It's the opposite of the strongman image he tries to project. But it gets even worse, because Trump's legal team didn't escape consequences either. The judge also sanctioned and expelled Trump's entire legal team for their part in the disruption. That's right, his lawyers got thrown out too. The judge had zero tolerance for any of it. He made it clear that this kind of behavior would not be accepted in his courtroom. Not from Trump, not from his lawyers, not from anyone. When a judge expels an entire legal team, that tells you something about how far things went. That tells you the disruption wasn't just Trump losing his cool for a moment. It was a sustained pattern of behavior that the court simply would not tolerate. The lawyers were supposed to control their client. They failed completely. And here's what makes this even more significant. Some of the judges involved in Trump's cases, including judges on appeal panels reviewing his legal arguments, were appointed by Trump himself. These are his own judges, people he put on the bench, and they're not showing him any special treatment. They're not going easy on him because he gave them their jobs. They're following the law. They're enforcing court rules. And when Trump crossed the line, they held him accountable. That's a huge deal. It shows that even judges who owe their positions to Trump are not willing to bend the rules for him. The judiciary is asserting its independence, and Trump is facing the consequences of his own behavior. The timing of this couldn't be worse for Trump politically. We're heading toward 2026. Midterm elections are on the horizon, and instead of projecting strength and control, Trump is being dragged out of courtrooms by security guards. That's not the image of a powerful leader. That's the image of someone who's losing control, someone who can't handle the pressure, someone who's coming unhinged under the weight of his legal problems. His supporters will try to spin this. They'll say he's fighting back against the corrupt system, but the reality is clear for everyone to see. Trump lost his composure in a federal court, and he paid the price for it. So what does all of this mean? Where do we go from here? That's exactly what we're going to break down in this video. We're going to look at exactly what happened in that courtroom. We're going to examine why the judge took such an extreme step. We're going to talk about the legal implications of Trump's behavior. And we're going to discuss what this means for his political future. Because when you get dragged out of a federal court, that's not just a bad day, that's a defining moment. So let's get into it. Okay, let's really dig into what happened here, because the headlines only tell part of the story. There are layers to this incident that most people don't fully understand. And once you see how everything unfolded, you'll realize why this courtroom removal is such a significant moment in Trump's legal and political journey. This isn't just about one outburst. This is about a pattern of behavior, a confrontation between Trump and the judicial system, and a clear signal that courts are no longer willing to tolerate disruption, even from the most powerful people in the country. So let me walk you through exactly what happened, step by step, moment by moment, because the details matter here. The incident took place during one of Trump's ongoing federal court proceedings. Trump was present in the courtroom, which defendants have a right to be, but that right comes with responsibilities. You have to behave appropriately. You have to respect the court. You have to follow the judge's instructions. And from the moment proceedings began, Trump was testing those boundaries. He started making audible comments, muttering loud enough for people to hear, reacting to testimony and arguments in ways that disrupted the flow of the proceedings. This isn't some minor thing. Courts take disruption very seriously. When someone is making comments loud enough to be heard, that affects the record, that affects witnesses, that affects the entire process. It undermines the dignity of the court. Federal Judge Lewis Kaplan, who was presiding over the case, warned Trump multiple times. The judge told Trump to stop. He explained that continued disruption would result in consequences. He made it clear that Trump's right to be present in the courtroom was conditional on appropriate behavior. But Trump didn't stop. He kept making comments. He kept disrupting. It was as if he believed the normal rules didn't apply to him, as if he thought being president gave him special privileges that ordinary defendants don't have. But Judge Kaplan wasn't having it. He wasn't going to let Trump turn his courtroom into a circus. He maintained his authority and made clear that disruption would not be tolerated. And then came the moment everyone is talking about. After repeated warnings when ignored, Judge Kaplan had enough. He told Trump that if he didn't stop immediately, he would be removed from the courtroom. And when Trump still didn't comply, the judge gave the order. He directed security to physically remove the President of the United States from the federal courtroom. And that's exactly what happened. Security officers approached Trump, they took hold of him, and they escorted him out of the room. According to witnesses, there was physical contact. Trump resisted, and he was essentially dragged out. The courtroom erupted in chaos. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. This was unprecedented in every sense of the word. Now, let's be clear about something. Courts have the authority to remove disruptive defendants. This happens in courtrooms across the country when people won't follow the rules. But it almost never happens to someone of Trump's stature. Former presidents aren't typically dragged out of courtrooms by security. This is the kind of extreme measure that judges reserve for the most serious violations of court decorum. The fact that Judge Kaplan went this far tells you how egregious Trump's behavior must have been. The judge clearly felt he had no other choice. He had to restore order. He had to maintain the integrity of the proceedings. And that meant removing Trump by force. There was simply no other option left. And it wasn't just Trump who faced consequences. His entire legal team was also sanctioned and expelled from the courtroom. That's an extraordinary step. Defense attorneys are supposed to control their clients. They're supposed to advise them on how to behave. They're supposed to help maintain order. When a judge expels an entire legal team, it suggests those lawyers were either participating in the disruption or failing completely in their duty to control their client. Either way, it's a devastating blow to Trump's defense. How do you proceed with your case when your lawyers have been thrown out of court? This adds another layer of chaos to an already chaotic situation. The defense is in shambles. Let's also talk about the broader context here. This incident didn't happen in isolation. Trump has a history of confrontational behavior in legal settings. He's attacked judges on social media. He's criticized prosecutors. He's pushed boundaries in ways that other defendants would never dare. And courts have generally shown remarkable patience. They've given Trump warnings. They've issued gag orders. They've tried to accommodate his unique situation as a political figure. But there are limits, and Trump finally crossed them. Judge Kaplan essentially said, "I've had enough. The law applies to you, just like it applies to everyone else. And if you can't behave, you're out. No more special treatment. No more patience." And here's what makes this particularly notable. Some of the judges involved in Trump's various cases, including judges on appellate panels, were appointed by Trump himself. These are judges who owe their positions to Trump. You might expect them to show some loyalty, some deference, some willingness to cut him slack. But that's not what's happening. Trump-appointed judges are holding him accountable just like any other defendant. They're enforcing the rules, they're issuing adverse rulings, they're not letting Trump's political status affect their legal judgment. That's actually a testament to the independence of the judiciary. But for Trump, it must be infuriating. His own judges aren't protecting him, they're treating him like any other litigant. The case that was being heard before Trump's removal was reportedly dismissed as frivolous. That's legal terminology. That means the court found the arguments had no merit, no legitimate legal basis. It wasn't a close call that could have gone either way. It was a complete rejection of whatever Trump was trying to argue. And when you combine a frivolous case with courtroom disruption and physical removal, you get one of the worst days in court that any litigant has ever had. Trump didn't just lose on the merits. He got thrown out of the room while losing. It's hard to imagine a more humiliating outcome. It's a complete and total defeat on every level. The political implications of this are enormous. Trump has built his brand on strength, on dominance, on never backing down, but being dragged out of a courtroom by security guards, that's not strength, that's losing control. That's being unable to function within normal institutional constraints. His opponents will use this footage relentlessly. They'll say it shows Trump is unfit, that he can't handle pressure, that he lacks the temperament for leadership. And while his core supporters might frame this as Trump fighting back against a corrupt system, that narrative is a harder sell when you're literally being hauled out of court for refusing to follow basic rules of decorum. The optics are devastating. All right, let's break this down into the key points, because this is a dramatic story with major implications. And I want to make sure everyone understands exactly what happened, why it matters, and where things go from here. This is the kind of incident that changes how people see Trump. So let me lay it out clearly, point by point, because once you see all the pieces together, you'll understand why this courtroom removal is being called one of the most humiliating moments in Trump's long history of legal battles. This isn't something that just blows over. This is defining. This is the kind of thing that sticks. Point number 1. Trump was physically removed from a federal courtroom by security. This is the core fact that everyone needs to understand. The President of the United States was dragged out of a federal court after refusing to stop disrupting proceedings. This isn't metaphorical. This is an exaggeration. Security officers physically escorted Trump out of the room. Witnesses described chaos. They described Trump resisting. They described a scene that nobody expected to see involving a president. This is unprecedented in modern American history. We've simply never seen anything like this happen to someone at Trump's level of power and status. It's a moment that will be remembered for decades. Point number 2. The judge warned Trump multiple times before ordering removal. This wasn't a snap decision. Judge Lewis Kaplan gave Trump numerous opportunities to stop his disruptive behavior. The judge explained the consequences. He made it clear that Trump's right to be present was conditional on appropriate conduct. Trump ignored every warning. He kept muttering comments. He kept disrupting. It was only after all warnings failed that the judge ordered security to remove him. That matters because it shows this wasn't an overreaction. This was a measured response to sustained misconduct. The judge tried everything before taking this extreme step. He gave Trump every chance to correct his behavior. Point number 3. Trump's entire legal team was also expelled and sanctioned. The consequences didn't stop with Trump. His lawyers were thrown out too. They were sanctioned by the court for their role in the disruption. This is extraordinary. Defense attorneys are supposed to help maintain order. They're supposed to control their clients. When a judge expels an entire legal team, it signals complete breakdown of courtroom decorum. It suggests the lawyers were either participating in the problems or utterly failing to manage their client. Either way, it leaves Trump in a terrible position going forward. How do you defend yourself when your lawyers have been kicked out? This makes everything harder. Point number 4. Even judges appointed by Trump are holding him accountable. This is a crucial point that doesn't get enough attention. Trump appointed many federal judges during his first term. You might expect those judges to show him some loyalty, some consideration, but that's not what's happening. Trump appointed judges are enforcing the rules just like any others. They're issuing adverse rulings. They're dismissing his cases as frivolous. They're not letting his political status affect their legal decisions. The judiciary is demonstrating its independence, and Trump is discovering that putting judges on the bench doesn't mean they'll protect you when you break the rules. That's not how the system works. Point number 5, the underlying case was dismissed as frivolous. To add insult to injury, Trump wasn't just removed from court. The case he was there for was also rejected as having no legal merit. Frivolous is a strong term in legal context. It means the court found the argument so weak they shouldn't have been brought at all. So Trump got thrown out of court while simultaneously losing his case on the merits. It's a double humiliation, a complete defeat on every front. There's no way to spin this as a partial victory or a promising development. This was a total disaster from start to finish. Now let's talk about the broader implications of this incident, because what happened in that courtroom doesn't stay in that courtroom. It affects everything going forward. First, there's the political damage. Trump's brand is built on strength and winning. Being physically dragged out of a courtroom by security is the opposite of that image. It makes him look weak, out of control, unable to function within normal institutions. His opponents will use this footage and these reports relentlessly. They'll say it proves Trump lacks the temperament for leadership. They'll say it shows he can't handle pressure. And while hardcore supporters might see this as Trump fighting back, that's a tough sell to undecided voters who see a man being hauled out of court for refusing to follow basic rules. The imagery is powerful and damaging. Second, there are consequences for his other legal cases. Trump is facing multiple prosecutions and civil cases. Each one requires courtroom appearances. Each one requires working within the judicial system. If judges see that Trump disrupts proceedings and gets removed, they might impose restrictions in their own courtrooms. They might be less inclined to grant favorable rulings. They might view Trump as a bad faith litigant who doesn't respect the process. This incident could poison the well across all his legal matters. It makes everything harder for his defense team going forward. Third, there's the question of what happens next in this specific case. Trump's lawyers were expelled. His case was dismissed. He was physically removed. Where does that leave things procedurally? There will likely be appeals. There will likely be motions to reconsider. But Trump is starting from a terrible position. He's alienated the court. He's lost his legal team standing. He's demonstrated that he can't be trusted to participate appropriately. Any future proceedings in this matter are going to be colored by what happened here. And there's a bigger picture here about the rule of law. Courts depend on everyone, even powerful people, following the rules. When someone like Trump demonstrates that he won't follow those rules, courts have to respond. They have to enforce order. They have to show that no one is above the basic requirements of courtroom conduct. Judge Kaplan's decision to remove Trump sends a message. It says, I don't care who you are. If you disrupt my courtroom, you're out. That's actually important for the health of the judicial system. But it comes at significant cost to Trump personally. So where do we go from here? In the short term, expect this incident to dominate the news. The images and descriptions of Trump being removed will be everywhere. His team will try to spin it as persecution. His opponents will call it accountability. The debate will rage, but the facts are what they are. Trump was warned repeatedly. He refused to comply. He was removed by force. Those facts don't change no matter how you interpret them or try to spin them. In the medium term, expect this to affect Trump's legal strategy across all his cases. His lawyers will have to work harder to control him. Courts might impose preemptive restrictions. Judges might be less patient with any misconduct. The incident creates a reputation problem that follows Trump into every courtroom he enters. He's now the defendant who got dragged out of federal court. That's not a label that helps your legal position. It makes judges skeptical before you even open your mouth. In the long term, expect this to be remembered as one of the defining moments of Trump's legal battles. Alongside indictments, alongside verdicts, this physical removal from a courtroom will be part of how history remembers this period. It captures something essential about the tension between Trump and the institutions he's confronting. He refuses to play by the rules, and the rules are being enforced anyway. Donald Trump was dragged out of a federal courtroom by security. His legal team was expelled. His case was dismissed as frivolous. Even judges he appointed are holding him accountable. This is one of the most dramatic and humiliating courtroom moments in American political history, and we're watching it unfold in real time. The consequences are still developing. The story is still being written. Make sure you're subscribed because this story is going to keep developing. There will be appeals. There will be responses from Trump's team. There will be more legal battles, and you're going to want to know about all of it. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything, because what happens next could reshape how we think about presidential accountability and the rule of law. I'll see you in the next one.